the UALR Performing Arts Series in its 2015-16 season. Performance 7:30 p.m. in the Stella Boldsmith Concert Hall in the Fine Arts Centre on the UALR campus, where a masterclass will be held at 5 p.m. preceding the concert. For more information, call the box office 501-569-8993. The Theatre Department of UALR Theatre Dance opens the 2015-16 season with an invitation to walk, called On Walking/Walking On. It's an interesting use of imagination, improvisation, on, and I quote, the activity, theme, and significance of walking. Lawrence Larry D. Smith conceived of the idea and tells us how it has been developed by the cast. He joined the faculty a year ago and surprised me with what has led him to this project.
Walking the blues, 'cause this is it, boy.
I came here from Illinois, and so just to have vertical challenges in walking, right, and have streets and walks, sidewalks that come and go and disappear, and not having things laid out on strict north-south axes, that made my walking different here. And in a way, it certainly opened up my mind and made me perceptive about this place. Another thing that struck home for me about walking, particularly at UALR, is its proximity to the Trail of Tears, which the Choctaw Nation called the Long Walk, right? Result of the Indian Removal Act of 1830. And as I found out, that bands of Choctaw and Chickasaw passed through Little Rock, right by what is now UALR campus, right at Asher and Coleman Creek there. That struck me as something very significant about the site of the campus and the site of the theater. It made me consider Little Rock then further in terms of walks. Civil rights and Central High integration is certainly a significant walk that occurred here in Little Rock. And then there's this challenge, right, in finding a piece for young people, in that plays are usually written by older people for older people and about a mix of ages, And one of the challenges in working with young actors and performers is finding material where you don't put unnecessary obstacles in the way. And so a devised piece, the idea of coming up with a theme and then approaching it through research and working collectively on that seemed like a good fit. That was the sort of piece I wanted to do for my first directorial project here. And so the theme of walking was appealing in that way. Finally, there's this famous statement by Peter Brook about you can take any empty space, right, and all you need is an actor walking across that space and an audience to witness that, and you have theater. And that sort of that minimalist test of modern theater or postmodern theater, I thought let's take that on, because having been an actor most of my life, when I think about it, if I take away text, then most of an actor's life is entering, crossing, and exiting. And I wanted to play with that theatrically.
And of course, the walk-on is a figure in theater.
Right, absolutely, the walk-on. And metaphors abound for walking, right? Life is a journey. You can't understand another person until you've walked a mile in their shoes, right? So
you haven't done this project anywhere except here?
No, this is, and this was our gamble too. Because of my teaching schedule, we worked all the summer compiling texts and a framework for this performance. But we've had a good rehearsal period, but one that forces us to make decisions and move on quickly, which is good too. It's kept a productive sort of pressure on us working here. So it is a brand new piece being tried out.
Did you, with your brand new students and you on the stage or in the classroom, throw out the idea and say, this is what we're going to do? You can come with your own ideas and we'll see what comes out of it.
Yeah, the audition process was exactly that. I said, come in with your own story or family story about walking, some significant walk you've made. Come in with a joke. 2 longshoremen walk into a bar, 3 religious figures walk into a bar, or what have you, and then also a song where walking was significant. And it was just to see the sort of materials and themes that they came in with and start to work from there.
And they know, of course, what improvisation is. They've seen improv from spectacularly successful professional improvisers to their own when they're sort of doing charades at home or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I wondered about the jokes. Would they make an effort to make a joke, or did the jokes just come effortlessly from what was going on with them?
I don't think people tell those sorts of jokes that much anymore. A lot of them had to go, find jokes somewhere, especially that things that begin with 2X, walk into a bar, or
Uh-huh.
But some people have then taken their source joke and tweaked it and come up with with a different take on it. I don't want to give away the punchlines because we'll use some of them in the show. Jokes were a challenge. I mean, there's also this mixture. On the one hand, work with narrative theater, but also keep something of the vaudeville stage and the comic walk, right? The comic stage, joke telling, taking your turn, as it were, alive in this production too.
How many of them have actually seen any of the Charlie Chaplin silent movies?
I think only one or two have ever seen, and that's the thing we talked about in design, those sort of famous walks like Charlie Chaplin, John Wayne, someone like Jimmy Cagney, which honestly Marlon Brando at the end of On the Waterfront, you seldom see those sorts of shots in film these days because we're so emphasized on action and on close-ups.
Mm-hmm. How many do you have doing this?
I have 10 students in the ensemble, plus an additional stealth actor that will appear on stage. So 11 performers, and then our crew. That's about it, really.
And did you find during the course of putting this idea into practical purposes that there was at times an absolutely unmistakable need to laugh? The very fact of doing something so
Sure, because
unusual.
As soon as you start to aestheticize a walk, right, as soon as you make a walk non-pedestrian, it can become ludicrous, and fun, in a good sense, right? I mean, like Monty Python's Ministry of Silly Walks, all that, right? And there's also because it is visually driven. I mean, we do work from core texts, poems by Walt Whitman, Arthur Rimbaud, texts by Michel de Certeau on walking as an everyday practice, and et cetera. Numerous songs, that use walking as a motif for the human condition, for a path toward God. We have sections in there that deal with the Hajj, the pilgrimage that a Muslim can make in their lifetime to Mecca, or occurrences of the use of walk in the Old Testament. There's a wide spectrum, right, of both humor and gravitas and chances to work with words and also work silently. So as soon as you start to work silently, right, a playfulness comes in, whether the material is serious or lighthearted. And that's really what we're trying to maximize, the sense of improvisational play on stage.
And given that you had all these different people coming in, not quite sure of themselves, but bringing what you'd been told to bring, did you find it was surprisingly diverse?
Yes, actually. Some people bring in a lot of humor. Some people bring in a story of recovery, right, that involved walking, and that was one of the metaphors we've talked about since in rehearsal, right? Some people have astonishingly lyrical, almost heroic, memories of a walk occurring, or sometimes where you feel like you've been punished, and forced to walk for some reason. So there's been a very nice range in terms of their own narratives, and that mapped very well onto the sorts of existing texts that we'd already assembled to work from.
And preponderantly women or men?
We have a nice balance. We have 5 men, 5 women, and then our stealth actor is also a male too. So that's very nice.
Did anybody come up with that wonderful? It was a song that was popular when I was a lot younger. A poor little robin walking to Missouri, can't afford to fly.
No, that's a good one. But no, we didn't hear that. We had Patsy Cline and Johnny Cash and Bob Marley, Exodus, a variety of songs, but we didn't get that one. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't what you might call one of the great hits.
Right, but that's the thing, too. What I've found, there are some really rather wonderful spirituals arranged by William J. Dawson, who I don't know if anyone remembers anymore or not, but he taught at Tuskegee a couple of his songs in his Caro, and also Ezekiel Saw the Wheel make use of walking quite a bit in there. So those two are like songs that have been forgotten, but bear repeating, at least to a certain measure. Now,
did you give the students that came the same little spiel you gave me about walking and where the Trail of Tears was?
Yes, and probably a little bit longer because I wasn't worried about radio time sounding interesting.
But most of them knew about it, or was this a revelation to them?
Some knew about it. Some had already done research projects at Sequoia National Research Institute Center here on campus. But for many of them, it was new. It was new information,
We lived in Texas for a while and went with a trailer into Oklahoma. And one of the first times we went to that Cherokee Center in is near Muskogee.
Yeah, Muskogee.
Yeah, and it was just that they just finished building the house. They hadn't got a lot of the other buildings actually sort of part of the whole park, the whole story.
Right.
I'd heard about it, but I didn't know that it came directly from Alabama. Was it originally?
Yes. Well, the 5 civilized tribes were all through the Southeast, and so Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Carolinas, Florida.
Because I remember being told and being amazed that there were even tribes that had Masonic significance in terms of greetings and the way that Masons greet each other. And they had the first tribe virtually to have an alphabet.
Yes. The Cherokee syllabary was the first North American cryptic language, cryptography, right? A system of writing. It's a long and complicated history, and not one that certainly in our play we can do full justice to or full service in terms of rendering. Ostensibly, yes. When it was a question of trade, that's just wanting goods from a particular territory and finding the people that want those goods. But when people are looking to settle, right, and farm, especially, then you get into the desire for land. And despite the numerous treaties made, and despite a Supreme Court decision in favor of the Cherokee Nation about being allowed to retain their lands east of the Mississippi, and in an act that really should have qualified the president for impeachment, right? People were forcibly evicted from their lands, relocated to what was called Indian Territory in Oklahoma, what is now Oklahoma. It was a massive relocation project, right? And it was by no means the last case, right? Almost every Native American group in the United States has undergone a trail of tears, right? And forcible relocations, and this is one of the reasons why we're referring to this, go on to this day, right?
So that is brought up in this Walking On.
Yes. By the time we get to the end, history is the thing that we walk through, right? History is the thing that we are surrounded by and might not be aware of. So this is part of one of the reasons for recounting and recalling the long walk, the Trail of Tears through Little Rock, and also a look though at our own time, right? With the big news lately, of course, is the plight of refugees from Syria, the massive walk from Budapest to Austria, and really it delivers us into this moment. I was like, well, what's the path that one chooses, right? What's the path that one chooses as a participant in this world for oneself? Do we walk alone? Do we walk together? Do we walk toward a common destiny, or goals, if not a destiny, really goals that we actively choose and work to realize? This is where our piece ends.
Larry Smith of the UALR Theatre Department faculty. To find out what or where On Walking On leads, The show opens October the 7th and runs through the 11th. Performances are in the University Theatre, the Centre for the Performing Arts at UALR. Performance times Wednesday through Saturday at 8 p.m., 2:30 p.m. Sunday. For reservations, call 501-569-3456.